5 light years to the Firesnake. Book 1 of the Plan8 Slaves series. Chapter 2, Adra. Oxfire, Enderland, Planet Nerthus. Hot with fury, Adra rode the lift up the clear stem of her family's home pod. She entered the living area on the first floor and marched to the stairs, encased in her home pod's transparent shell. Her fiery curls recoiled as she stomped up and around the steep spiral, passing 2 middle floors. At the top, she bashed the inner shell with her palm. Open! An arch snapped open. She bounded through and dived onto her bed. She pushed herself up, grabbed her air sphere remote, then pressed the button. A head-sized sphere of light appeared mid-air. Talk to Ting. After a few buzzes, Ting appeared and gasped. Oh, Adra, she said in 3 chiming syllables. Look at your face. Whatever happened? Her Malzong accent was choppy, like her personality. Adra found comfort in it. I've broken up with Tommen. He's been cheating on me. Adra's chest heaved. Ting cradled her face with her hands. Goodness! I saw him kissing some blonde at the bottom of Hill Park. He didn't bother denying it either. It was like he wanted me to see. He knows I practice union at the top of the hill every day after work. Ting's small hands covered her chubby face and she peered through her fingers. Oh dear! You've been together 4 years. No respect. She lowered her hands to expose narrow black eyes. Tommen had been the rock. Her rock after the maglev suction tube accident 2 years ago, which had left her face scarred. Mum's death had left her devastated. Tommen had stuck by her when she needed him most. He'd also given her space during those frequent moments when grief curled her into a tight ball, but had always been a womanizer before and after her mum's death. She turned to gaze at the pod's transparent shell. Twilight darkened her room and the sinking sun cast long shadows across her egg-tip penthouse. All around, pods, crystal skywalks and maglev suction tubes lit the sky like fairy lights. Far below, pedestrians and hovers became shadows as the light shone from crystal paths beneath. I should thank the girl. I can't stand all his flirting anymore. She rubbed her forehead. I'm sick of my life. It can't be so bad, surely. You're still young, Ting continued in short, bursting tones. At least you're employed and have food, pod and... She removed a strand of hair from her face. A family, Adra thought, with no mother. At least you're healthy, Adra slouched. I miss my mum so much. Yes, I know, but the world is still beautiful. Look around you. I know, but I can't see. It feels like I'm permanently wearing sunglasses, but it'll never be the same brightness as it was before. She looked at the symbols on her small altar. Earth, water, fire, and air. I'm so sorry. It's terrible since your mum died. Nothing's right anymore. Tommen's broken my heart. I grieve daily, and I'm not following my dreams. You're still not happy with your work? Of course I'm not. Me neither. Not so much had changed since their day studying urban humanitarianism. Ting paused for a moment and stared off into the distance. I never thought I'd live to see androids and robots take away our jobs. Soon they won't need humans anymore. And I'm only encouraging it by working for my dad, pushing around a trolley of old android parts. Isn't exactly helping underprivileged humans. I feel like a traitor. The only perk to her job was the view. The Android Recovery Centre was housed in a 4,000-year-old building, Oxfire's once famous bod library. Its dark corridors smelled of mildew, but she never tired of looking through the windows. The stone spires and gargoyle-clad architecture were preserved in Oxfire's inner city. Ting shook her head. You're lucky your dad got you that job. Working for Oxfire High Tech is very good. Goosebumps prickled Adra's arms as she thought of Dad's regard for the androids they assembled. Wipe the androids' memories, he'd muttered to an engineer one time. Don't check once, check 3 times. This batch comes from slavers. Better than packing suction tube deliveries like me, Ting said, bringing Adra back to the moment. I ask you, how can humans be such cheap labour? My life is cheaper than a machine. If I lazy, I do nothing. No problem, government can give me money, but I judgin'. Work is important. Not being a lazy ass. Ting's cheeks dimpled as she giggled. I know. Aja rose and stepped closer to Ting's floating image. We studied urban humanitarianism for a reason. Ting rubbed her eye with a knuckle. I stuck too. My father won't even pay for my return ticket to Kuanja. It's only 5 light years away, but he says I need to save my money. Myself. By myself. She opened her palms towards the ceiling and looked up as if talking to God. My gosh, can you believe that? What is my father even thinking? Aja suppressed a smile. Ting laughed, black eyes glittering. He has plenty of money. What to do? Aja tried to stay serious despite Ting's eccentricity. Now was the right time to share her unspoken desire. I've been thinking for a long time about whether we could travel 17 light years to Melida. She looked into the distance again, imagining life on that beautiful moon. We could volunteer in an eco-community for rescued slaves. They have apprenticeships at FRAP. Oh yes, FRAP. Your dissertation, I remember. Ting's face grew dreamy. Oh, Aja, yes, great. It sounds so great. My ancestors from Maozong in Melida. Every Georgian want to go there. Melida orbited a gas giant. The fertile moon was superior to all the 7 inhabited worlds of Plan8. Melida's life-extending genetic engineering, technology, environmental sustainability, zero pollution policies, and anti-slavery laws amazed her. If she lived there, she'd choose to live on the side tidally locked to Tushing, the gas giant. How wonderful it would be to wait to that purple beauty in the sky every day. Ting's expression turned to frustration, breaking the spell. It's expensive though. 17 light years would take. 4 Earth's years by Cryosponge. Touch on Cryosponge for 4 years, too expensive. Can be dangerous too. I became so plump when I came to Nerthas, you remember? I remember, Ting. If I get fat, I can eat less and work out. Not easy. Not only that, I became more stupid, kept forgetting things. What are you talking about? You're a genius. Higher chance of cancer, infertility, brain damage. Lots of people are fine. Sometimes you have to take risks to get what you want. Melida has the best cancer treatment in Plan 8, so if I get it, I'll have easy access to the treatment. Ting sighed. And the money? I've gotten compensation from the accident. Aja ran a fingertip over the scar, tracing the line of her upper cheekbone, 5 centimeters long. It felt bumpy like a centipede. A shudder went through her from her terrible memory. The broken maglev suction tube had cut into her cheek as she lay there, struggling to hold on to Mum's wrist. If only she'd been stronger. Mum had slipped from her grasp, fear on her face. She'd fallen so far, disappearing into the forest. The only sound was that of survivors' screams and the howl of the wind. Your compensation's not enough. No one has enough. Only rich and famous. I'm going to ask my dad for early inheritance. I'll call you later. She walked around and down the inside of her HomePod's shell. Pods near and far glowed in brilliant colours. Through transparent sections of their pods, families prepared supper. What secrets were being made in opaque areas? In a neighbouring pod, 3 children ran around in a soft play zone. Soundproofing was switched on so Aja couldn't hear their squeals of delight. When they landed on padding, it rippled like water. A child tapped the floor and mouthed something. A transparent bouncy castle arose and 2 older children raced towards it. A toddler had a tantrum outside it, kicking and rolling on the floor. The bouncy castle changed colour like a kaleidoscope as they shouted at each other. She found her middle 2 floors dark. The ground floor was mostly dark too, except for a section by the edge where Dad sat watching the news. He had enlarged the flat and flattened his airsphere against the concave surface of the pod's inner shell. The white light emitted from the floor and his chair made him look like a cosmic being. Since the accident, the central kitchen remained silent and dark. Before then, the warmth and fragrance of supper had filled the room pod at this time of day, the sweet smell of baking roots and deep, pungent aromas of spiced meat stews. Her mother would be busy chopping vegetables and keeping up a lively chatter with her family. If Dad hadn't returned from work, they'd talk in Mayledian, her mum's native language. She missed listening to her voice more than anything, whether speaking in Mayledian or her grammatically incorrect English. She had always been such a talkative person, full of songs, and always speaking her mind, the centre of everything. Now the kitchen was silent and lonely, like Adra's heart. Dad turned around to meet her eyes, his armchair rippling and moulding around him to suit his new position. Bloodshot eyes in his haggard face held her gaze. A half-emptied bottle of sea soda stood on his coffee table next to him. He tapped his foot and a tall glass lamp rose above her, dispelling shadows with a soft glow. "I finished with Tommen. He's been cheating on me."
"Oh, I'm sorry."
He shook his ginger head as if it might help him shake his drunkenness away. "But there's more to life, isn't there?" She paused, wondering whether it was appropriate to say what was on her mind. "I mean, there's more to life than living and working in Oxfire, getting married, buying a home pod and having children." Dad muted his airsphere.
"That's your choice, Adra. I never liked your Tommen. There's always been something about him I don't trust. I like his mum, though. She's a good woman. His dad's a bit peculiar."
He straightened, rested an ankle over a shin, and poured a fresh glass of sea soda. Adra tapped her foot. Cosy seat. A chair lifted from the floor, and she sank into it. It swamped her body, and her feet lifted. Shrink to 5'3", no light. It decreased to contain her petite body.
"Now, Tommen aside," he cleared his throat. "What I'm more concerned about are your job prospects." He cleared his throat again. "How many jobs have you applied for?"
"Oh, here we go again," she thought. 18.
"And any interviews?"
"No."
Your sister's been offered 5 different positions with prestigious pharmaceutical companies." He peered over his glasses. "Yes, your sister's been doing well. It's to be expected. After all, she is intelligent and did choose the right high-tech subject for success in life. No android can compete in verbal communications for sales yet."
She stared at Dad, wishing she could afford to live elsewhere. "Let's hope that no one finds a way to improve it in this lifetime then."
"By the time anyone does, she'll have enough savings not to worry about that possibility. There's no doubt she'll have enough money to give me 2 grandchildren on her salary alone. Susan will be earning at least 50,000 a year." He cleared his throat again. "While you, on the other hand, are presently earning 18.
Heat flooded her face. Instead of stomping off in a rage, she squeezed the back of her aching neck, breathed deeply and composed herself. "Okay, you're right." With a tight jaw, she spread her fingers out on her knees. "But instead of making a lot of money, I'd like to help people."
"You need money to have children."
"I don't want children."
"You will in the future."
"I know what life path I want to follow now. I want to join FRAP." She waited for him to ask her what it was, but he didn't. "It stands for..."
"I know what it stands for. Show me."
She took out her airsphere remote, found the link and flicked it into his airsphere. He motioned for his airsphere to peel itself off the pod's inner shell, then proceeded to expand and pull it to where he sat until it surrounded his body. He broke the silence every now and then by clearing his throat. Female rights and protection had several divisions. She wanted to volunteer in one of the eco-communities alongside rescued Plan8 sex slaves. Dad flattened his airsphere against the shell again and looked at her. She shifted under his gaze. "I can't afford to get there, but if I could, I'd make a new life for myself and have the career I've always wanted." She struggled to continue and waited for a response, but none came. "It was only a dream before, but now that I'm not attached to Tommen, I was hoping you might give me some of my inheritance now instead of later."
"Not a chance."
He swigged his sea soda and looked away. She straightened and tugged at her sleeve. "Please, Dad. I'm so stuck here. It would set me up for life. Ever since I was a child and watched that news documentary with you about human trafficking, my wish has been to rescue slaves."
"I can't remember letting you watch that."
"Come on, Dad. You used to let me stay up late and watch all sorts when Mum worked night shifts at the hospital." Dad cleared his throat and nodded. "This is the closest opportunity I have to follow my dream.
Dreams, Adra, dreams. That's all life has ever been for you. Don't you think it's time you get your head screwed on and find a job that'll pay well?
What's wrong with dreams?
Nothing, if they bring you money.
I don't care about money.
You shouldn't ask for early inheritance if you don't care about money. It's money that makes Plan 8. Money is security. Frap needs money to support these migrants too. Why don't you save and donate instead?
Heat pulsated in her head and chest as she glared at him. If you won't help me, I'll find a way. I need to get away from you for a start. Your drinking makes me feel so sad. Even before Mum died.
Don't you dare bring your mum into this. I don't want to hear about her. He drained his drink, and I don't want to hear about your fantastical dreams of saving humanity either.
Dad rarely raised his voice. No use in continuing. He was as stubborn as she. All her hopes evaporated when he switched his airsphere on again. She retreated to her room. She left it dark with a transparent shell, so neighbouring pods cast shafts of colour onto her carpet. An opaque shell would only add to her loneliness. Her chest was about to explode. Her mother wasn't alive anymore, and Dad wasn't there to offer support and strength. Tommen was supportive, but now he was shagging another woman. Adra fell to her knees in front of her altar and clutched a wooden statue of a woman. Mother Goddess, Mother Nerthus, please help me. She placed the goddess beside a bowl of water, feather, and a candle, then rested on her back. She cleared her thoughts and focused on her breathing. In her mind's eye, light from the planet's core arose through magma, crystals, rock, soil, and finally into her heart. The white light intensified and expanded throughout her body and aura until every shadow disappeared. She released her spirit into the other world and emerged onto a path in a pine forest. Cool air filled her nostrils and lungs. Sand slipped through her toes as she stepped forward. Loud flapping came from overhead. In a flurry of white feathers and wings, YuFu, her spirit guardian, landed. The young owl woman had a heart-shaped face. Feathers covered her human torso and breasts, and her feet and legs were pale and bare. Adra fled into the warm, safe embrace of YuFu's wings. Tears wet her face and hair, soaking through her spirit body, filling her with warmth and sadness. You came to me at the right time, Adra. You must leave Nerthus immediately. Your destiny will be dire unless you listen to my words. She cupped Adra's face in her soft human hands. Her huge brown eyes carried unshed tears and reflected nothing but trees. You must break all hearts to break the chains. Adra's spirit body was so tense, her veins and arteries felt as if they would explode through her skin. Her physical body remained relaxed on the floor. I have no money. Money have no gain. You're looking in the wrong direction. May lead us not the way. Adra's head throbbed. YuFu tilted her face towards a bright blue sky as if she was ready to leave. But I could help rescue slaves, Shah. I want to help. You need to listen to me. May lead us not the way. Where should I go, Shah? Adra offered her a white rose from the light in her heart. Neither Nerthus nor Maylida. Keep your rose. You need it more than me. Adra's airsphere pulsed when she returned to her body. She stood and put her hands into it. Except Ting appeared and looked from side to side as if worried someone might catch her. Where are you? Adra asked. A hollow game room. Oh, okay. Dad won't give me the money. Don't worry. I didn't think he would. Ting cupped her hands around her mouth, looking as if she was attempting to whisper. It was loud enough for others to hear. Listen! I did research. Listen carefully now. It's very important. I found 2 advertisements for 2 different positions, teaching Melidian to Kawanjanese in Kawanja. Adra shook her head and laughed. I don't want to be a language teacher in Kawanja. She wanted to say that Kawanja was backwards and even more corrupt than Nerthus, but Ting's family came from Kawanja. Something tugged her heart, like a small child trying to get attention from a parent. May lead us not the way. Oh, sorry, Ting. Forgive me for my outburst. Why don't they use airsphere interpreters instead? Ting looked around, cupped her hand around her mouth again and whispered. There's a position in Rajka. That's the capital city of Inamusa. You know Inamusa? It's called the Firesnake. It's very poor, and the tax on earth is too high, so no one use them. Adra huffed. I can't imagine a place that doesn't use air spheres. Other translation technology isn't good enough. They have aura shields, but a very cheaper version than ours, without interpretation software. Androids are too expensive. They need real speaking Melidians. Or, like you, people who speak it as a first language. I don't like the sound of it, Ting. Listen, the second position in Kwanja is in a rich country in the north. The country is called Makaz, and it's enormous. Most of population lives in the sky cities. Very nice place. It's west of my country and pays lots of money. You go there, you can save enough to go to Melida. Only need to work 2 years. Then you can take cryosponge to Melida. But if you travel 5 years, because in opposite direction, Makaz has air spheres, but so rich the people want humans to teach. Both positions pay your return ticket and accommodation. It sounded like a scam. No way, that's too good to be true. Maybe the Tachyon cryosponge was a cheap imitation of the real thing. She'd get cancer and the Kwanjanese medicine wouldn't cure her. Look, if I do it. Makaz's capital, Ghani. So much money. My Melidi are not good though, so I cannot. Only my Maozong any good. Tachyon Frost only take a bit over 1 year from Nethers to Kwanja. It take 3 times longer to Melida. I messaged the site details. Must go now. Aja would check it out on VR. She expanded her airsphere with her palms and stepped into it. VR. Ting's first link in northern Kwanja. The institute was an all-girls boarding school in Ghani, the capital of the prosperous Makaz region in the northern hemisphere. The Makazian boarding school was a vast blue glass sphere, 2 miles above sea level, surrounded by blue sky. Her head spun and she wobbled when VR took her outside to a transparent pedestrian tunnel. She'd have a high salary and a luxurious lifestyle. That sky city was far superior to Nurthling sky cities. However, she'd have to teach a group of teenage girls throughout the day, and into the evening, she'd be required to live with them. No privacy was offered. The other teaching position was working fewer hours at a language institute in North Rajka, the capital of Inamusa. Rajka was on a tropical island called Rajanaki. Inamusa was part of a string of 18,000 islands known as the Firesnake, which ran along part of Kwanja's equator. The Firesnake was the poorest region on planet Kwanja. As Adra left the institute, black smoke belched out of rusty buses, cars and motorbikes. Internal combustion engines were still the main form of motive power. Key facts appeared in the air listing the many factories in North Rajka. Also, it was on low land, hot, prone to flooding and infested with mosquitoes. Inamusa was the biggest Sachi country in Kwanja. The people were called native Reds and had red skin in an array of shades. Their black and white hair was patterned in stripes or spots. Most passers-by wore cotton t-shirts, knee-length shorts and sandals, though some dressed in various religious outfits. None had white skin like her. A shudder ran through her and she inhaled sharply. Dad's taunting voice echoed in her head. Should she suffer in an underdeveloped, polluted place to find freedom? She swiped the VR away and switched off her airsphere. The desire to escape filled her. Her life had no meaning here. Maybe she could find a meaning elsewhere. No one wanted her. She was a failure in Dad's eyes, and Suzanne was doing so well that Dad would barely notice Adra's disappearance. A return ticket to Kwanja's Firesnake would offer her security in the knowledge she could come back. The teaching job's salary in Rajka was high compared to the Firesnake's cost of living, and she'd live a comfortable life. Saving enough to get to Melida would be impossible, but Shah Shuvu had told her Melida was not the way. If Adra applied for one of these jobs, everything would be ready for her on arrival, and a manager would meet her at Kwanja's spaceport. She opened a drawer and touched her secret blue pouch and a wooden pipe. It was the length of her hand and had patterns of flowers and leaves carved into its stem and round bowl. A feather hung from its neck. At her command, Bilu glass shell stretched and moulded into a transparent chimney. It tunneled from her ceiling and formed an internal pod around Adra and her bed, then stretched towards stars, zigzagging around sky structure. She frowned on remembering her promise to herself, not to smoke leaf until the summer solstice. An owl hooted its consent in the distance, and she stuffed her pipe, inhaled the sweetness, and lay back. Her chimney carried the smoke above the highest public amenity pod. Focusing into the distance, she watched carriages in maglev suction tubes flitting to and fro. Hover discs on skywalks looked like blood cells meandering through veins. Self-extending pedestrian tunnels looked like tentacles of sea creatures in search of food. The infrastructure was dense in this part of Oxfire. It accommodated a high population of students, research scientists, and medical professionals. A Melidian lullaby drifted between her lips. Okay, I have to stop now, I'm afraid. I was hoping to finish that chapter, but my son has come, my noisy 5-year-old son has come in. Jamie? Yeah? Mummy wanted to just finish this chapter. There's only a little bit left. Crikey, that's a very, very long chapter compared to my recent books. Just to let you know, that's the first book I ever wrote, so it isn't as quick as my recent books in the series YuFu's Run. So okay, I'm not going to finish that, but yeah, if you fancy getting those books for free, well, book 1 and book 2 for free, maybe give them a go. There are lots of different characters in different places with different storylines, but who knows, you might like it. Yeah, but please don't judge my my most recent writing on this, because it's very, very different now. Well, this took me ages, like 3 years to write. I can knock out a book like about once every 1 or 2 months now, just 40k, but they're much quicker now. Yeah, Jamie, stop it. Okay, happy Christmas.